I was looking at this model yesterday thinking, what shall I do next? And I realized I'd made a big mistake, which happens quite regularly. And it's something I told you about, warned you about, and I've done it myself. And so it's good that I've made a mistake, because I can hopefully show you how to correct these things. But basically, when I was working on this surface here, I was zoomed into this area and I was looking at these CVs, and I was pulling the CV up and trying to get the shape to be better for all of the surfaces around it. What I didn't realize is that I'd lost symmetry. So if you look at the CV across here, it's not in the same position as that one. And so, and I spotted it because I thought I'd just check the symmetry on here, and then realized that I'd made that mistake. But like I say, the trouble is with symmetry, as soon as you do anything like trim convert, or you align that surface to anything else, symmetry gets lost. And so you have to keep on putting it back on. And what I should have done is just check the model more regularly. So anything going across the center line, I should be checking for symmetry on a more regular basis. But now I've done it, it's too late. I just have to fix it. So first of all, there's a couple of surfaces, this one and this one, which hang off that surface. So I just need to go into SurfCon and just check what the position alignment of that. And then we've got this surface hanging off the front as well. And this one, because it's hanging off the front, and also I won't have symmetry on that, I know that, that will also be a problem. So let's go into SurfCon and just check the continuity there. So it's all fine at the minute until I put symmetry on this. So when I go into Object Edit and put symmetry on, first of all, it says it actually looks like quite a small gap, but then I realized that the symmetry it's using is the wrong side, so it's dropped that point down. But what you can do is you can flip it. So it says flip master side. So if I press the space bar, you get this back up to where it needs to be, and you can see the other side's gone the same as well. But the problem is that I've got gaps here. Admittedly, that's quite small, 0.5. This one's quite big. But like I say, this surface here, I know for a fact I didn't put symmetry on that. I just aligned it, so I need to fix that one as well. It'll sort itself out when I align it anyway, to some extent. But if I put symmetry on it, and again, we've now, it's picked up that side rather than this side, so it's dropped this edge down. You can see it says 7.5 at both ends, which would be a disaster. But fortunately, we've got flip master side, so if I flip it the other way, we get back to something much closer, so 0.5. So it looks like this is very fixable and not such a disaster as I first thought when I looked at it. So we need to go and align these. Now I've got curves on surface there, and I've said before that if you're aligning into a surface, it's best not to use the existing curve on surface, but create a new one. But sometimes you can get away with it. So I'm going to just try and get away with that. So I'm going to say align G2. So I'm going to use edge here. So I'm going to align that to there. And you can see it says an active item has construction history, which means symmetry. If you continue, history will be removed. In other words, the symmetry gets removed at this point. But it should be symmetric in the sense that I'm aligning to a symmetric surface. So let's just align that. And it says position, the gap is 0.5. So I think if I used project and curve on surface, I'd probably get that down to 0 again. But if you're trying to do this quicker, sometimes into the curve and surface is fine, and you might have to just increase the degree, which surprises me that I have to go that far. I think I'm looking at the wrong one actually, because there's that gap there is this edge, not this one. So let me just revert that. So let me get rid of that locator there, because that's just rather misleading. And I'll do that again. So let's just do it into there. And we do have to increase the degree to 7. So you can see that's degree 7 when I do it to the curve on surface. If I drop that back down to 5, the other possibility is we change the position influence slightly, and that can have an effect, which it moves the CVs left to right, but it may or may not work. I mean, we're very, very close here, but you can see I can't keep that degree and use that curve on surface. And just to see what the difference is, if I take the curve on surface away and do an align G2 project, and I don't know whether this will be better, but I'm hoping it will be. So it isn't actually that much better, which is, it's slightly weird, but I suppose the fact that it was aligned to a surface which was a bit flatter before, this has now got this kick up on both sides. So maybe that's why I'm having to increase the degree. But you see, I can get away with degree 6, not degree 7, because I'm creating a new curve on surface. So it sort of shows that using the curve on surface isn't always the best. The existing curve on surface isn't always the best thing to do. It's better to reproject it. So these ones here, we've got different degree on this one because that one needed a higher degree to align this way. I'm going to try and use the curve on surface here again that exists already. So this is G0 surface into there. Just going to make sure I pick the right thing, which is that curve on surface. You can see by the names. And strictly speaking, I should put blend on because the middle point ought to come with this. So I'll make that 1, and then the blend factor of 1, so that it just pulls that point. It's so subtle that you can't even see it, to be honest. But if that was like 5 mil out, you would probably notice the difference. This one with blend on, I need to pick up 2 points rather than just the 1, because it's a higher degree. And then if we go into evaluate surface con, just check that this is okay, which it is. Good. While I'm there, I'm just checking some other stuff, but so that's okay. And yeah, so what we should do with this one, let's just isolate that. So these are our curves on surface, and we really want to trim this out so we can see what's going on. And we haven't got anything here at the minute. This just finishes. This one we can just drag across to the other side. That's no problem. So what you can do is you can just extend those. So if you just use extend, oh look, I've made another mistake, which is I've got 2 curves on surface. Now when I did the align, yet another mistake. So when I was aligning those edges, I wasn't concentrating, was I? Because I put project on. So I now have got 2 curves on surface. There's that one and that one. That must be the old one, so I can delete that one. And this one also done the same thing again. I need to be more careful. So those should be the latest ones. But we can extend this and see what happens. And if it extends okay, because this is fairly arbitrary, this is all washing out to nothing. So where this line goes is anybody's guess, really. And we can always change it later, but you can just extend these either by extending them like that, or this one I'm going to just do by going to surface edit, and I'm going to trim this. So I'm going to use no 3D trimming. I'm just going to extend on. So you can see here we've got green dot, green dot, green dot, green dot, because they cross over. This one's got a blue arrow. If I click on that, that'll extend it. So exactly the same as if I'd extended it outside of that function. And you can see we've still got symmetry on because the symmetry symbol's there, which is just reassuring. So now down here, we need to get this all to work together. So let's go into surface con. Now that one, I'm sure, was matched before, was aligned before, I thought. And for some reason it's not, but it's only slightly out. It's 0.08. The gap is 0.08. Now I was having problems with this surface in here last time. I was trying to do this in one hit and it wasn't going to work. And so I need to put some sections on there. And I decided that what I needed to do here was to split this up because it's very flat and then it starts to curve round, and trying to do that in one and trying to align this in curvature. If you remember when I tried to do that before, so I'm going to make sure I put edge on this time without blending on. So if I try and align that with curvature on into that edge partial, it lifts this up far too much. It's lifting it way off the data. So let's revert that. That's back to where it was. So I need a more localized change in here, and the way to do that is to put in a separate surface in there. Now we've got Let me just take these off. We've got to sort of think about how this is all going to join up. So we've got these splits here. This one is not quite in the right place, but they sort of continue across here. Ideally, I suppose we could. This line here isn't obviously in the right place because I can't align this to this surface at the minute. But ideally, we should have all of these. I need to split this somewhere. So I really want the split to be in front of this feature. Otherwise, it just adds more complexity to it. So if I put it, say, there, and maybe, ideally it should join up with this, because the things, if I split it here, then I would then have to split it here as well. So to have a little surface just to join up with that edge, which isn't the ideal. And of course, this, if we wanted to make this absolutely perfect, I'd probably be looking at changing that so that we end up with a line going all the way across there in one go. But you just don't want to spend forever just constantly changing everything, of course. I'm going to get rid of these curves here, just clear them out of the area. And while I'm just thinking, I'm just going to save that. And this little bit in here, this gap, what I'm going to do is split this. I'm going to split it across here, because then I can just put in that surface. There's only a tiny little error there that's crept in, and I think that'll be fine. We need to align into here anyway, or get that to work. So let's do that. So I think I'm just going to, ideally we'd split this and follow this line here, but I think I'll just detach it across there, to be honest, and hopefully that'll be okay. I'm just using Control on that CV on that corner there just to detach it, and I'll get rid of this locator, because I think if I don't get rid of that, then it'll be looking at the wrong edges probably. But this one should be no problem because I've just detached it, so that you shouldn't have separated at all. And then this one will be the problem, and we'll then need to align that. So I'm going to make that line edge, that one into there. We probably don't need such a high degree there. We can probably drop that down to 5 because we've made it much smaller. There's no reason to really keep degree 6 when we don't need to. Position influence ought to be 1, just to make sure the CVs are exactly aligned with this one here, although it's made no difference in terms of the alignment. Now these surfaces here, like I say, that one actually it does join up here. Have aligned that, but you can see there's a separation happened there, and so let me just see what the alignment there is. So that's not aligned. So again, I'm going to get rid of that curve on the surface and redo that. So G2, this is going to be project onto here. That one in the Z direction, and so we'll make that degree 7. So by a miracle, it's not only fixed this, but it fixes that as well at the same time. But it's because the change is so tiny, 0.001 something, that by making it degree 7, it's more localized there, so it's fixed it. Now we can't align anything on this side because we haven't got anything. This isn't correct at the minute. I'm just wondering, I think I might change that edge actually slightly so that we can get a curve across there. It's probably not ideal because it's sort of a bit wanders all over the place a bit, but let's do that anyway. So I'm going to put in a a curve from here to on that edge there. Now, when you're aligning a corner like that, it's always best that this is actually tanned in, so it's G1 into that area there. So I'll make it degree 2, and then we'll align it into there and just see what we get. I'm not sure whether this will, how good this will look. That'll work. So we're going to use that curve to trim, convert this one, split it up into 2, and these ones as well. It's a bit of a weird shape, I have to say, because ideally I'd go back from here, but that's just going to take too much time, so I'm not going to bother to do that. I just wanted to get it in front of here, otherwise it's likely, it won't cause a massive problem. It's just that, will it cause a problem at all? I don't really like that line particularly. It won't really cause a problem. It just means you end up with a few more surfaces around here where you put them together. No, I'm going to just live with that. I think it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but when you actually surf, the surfaces themselves can be still beautiful. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I just have to do it the other way. But I don't think it'll be an issue. I'm hoping not. So let's go and trim convert these back to that line, so they're all going back to a consistent line, and then that one there. So of course we lose the that evaluator there, or the locator there. That one is out of date now because we've done a trim convert. That's a new surface. So and the other thing is that surface there isn't trimmed, so the edge goes all the way along there. We don't really want that. We want to trim that out now. Otherwise, when we do the evaluation, we're not going to be looking at the correct edge. It's always worth just putting those on. That one is way out. I'm going to get rid of that. And because we haven't actually aligned that at all at the minute, so I'm now going to do that. So this is going to be G2 project Z onto that surface there. And then I want to convert these, convert this surface up here into 2 bits. So I'm going to do that now. So project Z, that one, and we want both bits, so we're going to divide it rather than just converting 1 bit. So we've now got that as 2 areas there. Let's just have a quick look at our sections through there. So there is a difference to the mesh there, but it comes back on here. So I think we'll ignore the mesh because we can always refine that later anyway. So we've got, so this one, we're saying this surface we're probably okay with. I mean, I don't know what happens back here. We're going to have to work that one out, but for the time being, I'm just going to align this so that at least they join up for the time being. And if it changes, it changes. So this one's going to be aligned in here to edge G0, and it's going to be position influence of 1, so the CVs all join up properly. And then this one here needs to, let me just get that curve out of the way. I'll just make it into a template for the time being. So I should get rid of my templates every so often. So I just need to make sure that this is aligned to that big surface there. So that's going to be G2, this surface into here. Again, position influence of 1, and you can see it's opened up a gap here. So let's just try, well, I tried G1, but I don't think this was anywhere close anyway, and it's actually made no difference. I was just wondering whether I can get away with that, but I don't think I've ever aligned that. They've just been separate. So that gap inevitably will open up. Sometimes if you do skew instead, you might find that helps a little bit, but really we want edge on. So that edge means that these these flow in this direction, and so that's what you really want. So it does look like, having done that, I'm going to have to untrim that again, get rid of the curve on surface, and then see if we can align that back in with project on. And it's worked. That's good. I don't know whether we need degree 4. Let's have a look and see whether we can get away with degree 3. No, we can't. So it's because of this front edge we need degree 4. The other thing we've got is we've got this big surface in here. This one here we haven't done anything with at the minute, and so I need to do something with that. So we've got to align that from here. So this is going to be edge. Just trying to be careful here that I don't end up with something that's completely and utterly wrong. That's not looking great. I'm going to make that degree 5. That's looking slightly worrying. I'm going to make it degree 5 that way to align to that in that sense. Oh, of course, yeah. So it's completely changed because I've got edge on, and actually I want skew on because it's coming off. So you can see, you know, when I put edge on, it's trying to follow that line, and by default that's what was happening, and I actually want it like that. So it's more like the original, and in fact to tie it down even more I can put vector on in the Z direction, so it keeps it exactly as it was on the original. And then we'll do the same thing. I don't know what that's like in 3D yet, but do the same thing on here. This time we do want edge because we want this to flow through both ways. It's probably come off on this edge now, I would suspect. Yeah, quite a long way. Ah, no, of course. Now I have to be careful here. Actually, that's a load of rubbish. What I've analysed the wrong thing there. That actually it's difficult to see this at the minute, but maybe when I separate this out, this surface here doesn't have anything to do with that. It doesn't. That edge doesn't join up with this. It's this. It's the edge of this joins up with that. Like I say, it's difficult to see, but we've got that surface and that surface are below this surface. They're not actually anything to do with it, and so that's not going to be matched up in any way with that. There's going to be this surface here that's at a slight angle will just we'll need to carry on down here and just cover up that area, so it's just gradually the angle increases and does that, so the two are unrelated, thank goodness. And so this edge does need to join up with that, so I'm just looking at that and deciding whether that's a good edge or not. Let's have a look at the curvature on there. So let's look at the curvature in the V direction. So I just want to make sure that this curvature looks okay. And you can see in the CVs on that edge, this is why I'm hesitating a little bit, that CV looks a bit high compared with these ones. And you can see it in the curvature, that the curvature starts off quite tight and then flattens off a little bit. So really this CV needs to come down a bit. If I bring it down, of course, it will break the curvature here, and we can't do that. So the options are we can either slide this point down this way, which will then bring it below there. So that would be the best option probably, or we increase the degree of this surface, and then you've got another set of CVs to move around. But I'm going to just try sliding it first, and I want to use PMod on here because I want it across this way. So I'm going to keep the other edge where it is, and although that's probably not necessary, to be honest. So if I go into slide again, and you'll see the curvature there will then that flattening will reduce, but it's a question of how far do I have to slide it before that actually starts to happen. I have to slide it quite a long way, and of course we get a bit of a funny going across there. And so it might be better just to take the whole hull. So if I take the whole hull, which is that one and slide, and just move the whole hull down. Difficult to say whole. And I've missed one for some reason. Try that again. Maybe have I got history on there? Let's delete the history. No, there's no history. So I've got the edge loop there, and slide that down. So if I pull it right down there, you can see it has that effect of it lifting that curvature, but I've had to pull it so far, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to just pull it down a little way, because it does look as though it's not quite equally spaced there. I'm going to leave that as it is. Then I'm going to increase the degree. So I'm actually going to do both things that I just said, and I don't know which direction it's in. That was a bit of luck. So I've added an extra hull to that, and if I now go and pick that hull, that one, and I'm just going to move that up and down in Z, so that'll have the similar effect on this end here, but it doesn't affect the curvature because I've now got this extra row of CVs there. The other option, so that's not really doing it brilliantly there. It's still flattening off there, which I don't really like. The other thing I should do, because I've got curvature on, but I haven't got enough curvature on there. I've only got 3 samples there. I should have one at every single hull. So we've got 6 hulls there. Should make that 6, so that we can see right across there. It's really just that edge that seems to be the problem. And so I'm going to go into Object Edit. I'm going to go into Align, G2. I'm going to put history on there. I'm going to align that to there with history on, and I'm also going to increase that scale of the curvature so you can see a bit more clearly. Actually, that's dipping down, which I don't like. So the other option is that we can now modify this surface here to try and improve that curvature across there. So I'm going to take the CVs off these ones, because those are just going to get in the way. And of course, I'm going to lose the continuity here on this edge, but that doesn't matter. We can fix that afterwards. So I'm going to pull that point down, and I'm going to put some mouse sensitivity on it. See if we can just pull that down a little bit, or pull it up, actually. That's better. Now let's have a look. We should put the curvature on there as well. So there's also at this end, that's not too bad. At this end, it's just suddenly goes up. And again, let's get rid of the CVs that we don't want to see, which is that lot. And we've also got a curve there, which we don't probably need, but I'll take the CVs off that. And let's see if we can modify that end point slightly, just to get that curvature to flow a bit better. And we've got some curve in there, have we? What's going on there? Oh no, it's just different CVs there. So I'm just going to move these a bit. I'll just make the mouse sensitivity even higher. So we get much better curvature across there, which will be important. You know, when you look at the highlights, then that should be that will be important. Don't need these on. Right, so we've now lost the continuity here, so let's get rid of those. That one. Because we changed this one, this inevitably has lost the continuity, but that's not a problem. I could have put history on that as well and have everything updating, but it really doesn't make a difference in this case. And so that one's that. Let's take the history off. There. Okay, so I've just tried to align that in position, and it's broken things again. Surprise, surprise, because it always does this. And of course, that's a template, actually, that curve. Let's get rid of that. In fact, I've got another template there I should get rid of, because that was an old surface I had. So because I sort of leave templates around every so often, so I should go and just drag around and just pick anything that's a template That one we used before for building that edge, so we don't really need that anymore. Get rid of that. So I think this one hopefully will go in okay if I realign that one. So it's to an edge, that one, and that doesn't work. Wonderful. So we might have to increase the degree. I try not to, you ideally don't want to keep on increasing the degree and increasing the degree, but when you get into these areas, sometimes it's just the quickest way to do it. That I can't go on forever trying to keep the degree as low as possible. I'm going to get rid of that curve on surface again. I wasn't really expecting this to be quite so broken again, but that's the way it is. So let's try this one. Now this one, I was sort of half wondering whether this is going to work, because the trouble is I'm not following the rule of having edges flowing. So this one comes down here and then it goes off at an angle, and sometimes you can get away with it, and I'm hoping I will be able to get away with it, because it just involves more work if I don't do that. The other thing is because I've now I got that. No, I haven't aligned that yet. So I've lost the trimming there, of course. So we've got to be careful about the diagnostic there, that I've got this edge which goes this surface goes all the way from here to here. So if I pick up on that edge, there's actually 3 edges on top of each other, and one of them's not the right one. So let's go and try and align this surface back into this edge, which is the front edge, and that's going to be partial. We need vector on, because you can see it's coming off weirdly at the minute. So I want vector of Z on. Oh, it's fun and games here, isn't it? So that's opened up a gap. Let me try G1. So it's still got a gap there. It says the gap's 0.01. So if I look really carefully there, are my corners all joining up? Because that's quite often the case. See, the corners, when you zoom right in, the gap that's appearing is this 0.01. It's because the corners aren't quite joined up. And so let's have a look at that. So I wonder whether I did a project by mistake. So there's that one there and that one there. Aha. See, this one, I've either had partial on or I've had project on or something. Let's first of all see if I've got curve on surface. No, I haven't. So I must have had partial on when I aligned those. And so that's, sometimes when you start going around in circles, it's worth questioning the corners and just checking that the corners are okay. It's because you've got so many things to watch here that you've got. If I leave partial on, that's probably what's happened. It is just, it looks like it's aligned, but it's not. In fact, I can see, very subtle, but there's a little one blue arrow there, which means I'm right in the corner. This one's got 2 arrows on it, so it's not quite in the corner. And so I could actually just drag that along, and now you can see only one arrow. Or you just take partial off, which is, if I put partial on, it gets back to the 2 arrows because it's not quite on the corner. If I take it off, you just get the 1 arrow. So yeah, that's caught me out. And so now, of course, this has broken the position there, but I'm hoping that now we should be able to go around and fix this. So if I do G2 on there, I'll just do G1, yeah, G0 rather, and then just see if, because it was a tiny amount, yeah. So just by fixing G0, we've actually fixed the curvature. So I've only set G0 up here, but I've actually checked the curvature and it's actually fine. It's just because the edge was out slightly, and then we want to align this one to here. So it's trying to think of the logic of this is not always easy. Hooray! So now I've got that G0. So it was all down to that corner, not quite aligning. And so that double arrow that you get when it's a partial edge is another little tiny clue that there's something not quite right. And if you spot it, which I didn't, then it can save you time. So this one, oh, look at that. So you can keep that. Actually, there's only tangency on there. So if I go and click on that one, I can go into the information window. This is another way of changing that setting there. You can just go into the information window and change it to whatever you want up here. So that's good news. And then this surface here, we just want to trim this one back to here. So we've got all of that connected. And I'm going to save that. Right. Now, what would be good to do would be just to isolate all of the surfaces and just shade those up. I'll put F12 on. So I'm keeping all of the locators on there so we can see what's going on. So there's this surface which goes underneath all this lot and will be cut out later. And then we can also look at the diagnostics. So if I put horizontal vertical on, that's not looking too bad. We've got the flow of highlights across there, which we wanted. And then in here, of course, there's lots of change of surface going on. So that's all going to be doing that. And then I quite like this display because it's a bit more, feels a bit more real. And because sometimes you look at these lines and you think, oh my goodness, there's a real problem in wherever you're looking. But then when you sort of step back and think, well, in reality, you're going to see more something like that. Then it's reassuring that it's not as bad as you thought, because this is super critical. It's really so critical that you can see stuff in there that in reality may not be actually a big deal. But that looks okay to me. Good enough. Right, okay. So there's a transition in here. We've got this cutout to add. There's obviously some details in the hood there as well that we can add. We'll add those at the last. Those would be the last things that we add, to be honest. I think more importantly, we need to get this to all sort of join up more consistently. So let's have a look at some sections. So this is an area which is very, very complicated. So we need to somehow get this to blend back to this lot. So we've got this line, this edge will go through here. And I suppose I should do some more drawing, really. Let's make that red. So we've got this edge here. And then it continues through here somewhere. And I'm just doing a dotted line because it's going to wash out to nothing. And then we're going to have this edge here. And again, that's going to wash out to nothing. And I think that's probably where I need to start, really, with these edges. So in order to wash this out to nothing, I first of all need to get a surface in here that's going to be a single surface. Clear those off. So maybe if we take some sections through here, just the X section. And the other thing is we've got this feature, which is very strong, which doesn't actually extend far enough down, because the theoretical intersect between this surface, bearing in mind we did deviate from the mesh deliberately here, so it won't conform to the mesh up here, but it certainly needs to be deeper than this because it's going to come across and intersect the surface there. So we need to make that longer. somewhere like that. But then when it gets to a point here, this is another one which will wash out to nothing. So we'll end up with an intersect going through here, which then disappears into one surface. So if we put in one surface, which actually covers this whole shape, even though S is a bit, all the way down to here, and we build that center area, then we've got something to hang these other surfaces off. I have no idea which layer I'm on. I'm on body, that's good. I'm just trying to understand my own model. So maybe the thing to do is to start off with a curve that comes from here to here at some point that we decide. So we'll go from this section, we'll go down to here, that point there, and we'll increase the degree. Let's make it degree 4 for the time being. Let's make it degree 5. And then we'll align that. There's going to be a line to the section there, not that. So we haven't, because that section is not a curve, of course. So what I need to do there, to make that align there, one thing I can do is if I go into tools and I can promote a section to a NURBS curve. So I can say go, and I can click on that cross section there, and there's now a curve in there. So I can now align to that curve. I just need to make sure I pick the curve, which is called XSEC there. And the same thing on here, actually, we can promote that one. Yeah, so it's that one. And then we're going to align that to there. And of course, it's going to flip around the wrong way because it jumps to the end and then decides that that's the way it needs to go. So this has got a slight S in it, and which is fine. I haven't got create history on there, which I should have done. So it's going to have, because it's got an S in it, it's not going to have the usual, we're not going to follow the usual rules of CVs if you're talking about a blend going one way, because this is actually going both ways. So it's going to, the CVs themselves will S slightly. So I'm making the CVs fairly equally spaced. I have no idea what's going to work best really when we come to align everything to that. So we just have to start with something. So I've got a curve in there now. And I suppose what I could do is, so I've got that surface there. Where does that one finish? That one finishes there. So exactly where these are all going to be split is going to be interesting. And not very straightforward. And so I'm going to just make a copy of that and put it on this section here. That's wrong. I want to move the whole thing. I don't know whether I can actually do Control C, Control V then. Find out in a minute. There we are. Yeah, so I've got a copy of that curve there, and then I can align that to that section there. So again, I can promote that section. Which is going to be that one. And then I can align that I'll make this a little bit shorter, because if I make it a little bit shorter, then when I align it, it shouldn't snap to the end. Hopefully that's better. So now I can drag it to the end, then it doesn't switch around the other way. So I've got more or less the same spacing of CVs on both of those. That's why I copied that. And then this one will promote this one as well. A curve into that curve. Just make sure it's on the end, which it is. And then just modify it a little bit just to make it a bit closer. And so I'm thinking I'm going to rail this, see what happens. So I'm going to use one generation curve, which is all of this edge, and but I only want a little bit of it, to be honest. And so I've got curve segments on there. I should be able to split that up, I think. It's not quite, it doesn't quite go all the way there because of the way I've split it before. And so I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll just move that onto there. Yeah, done it again, haven't I? It had moved pivot on. Oh, wait a minute. That's because I've got history on, so it's not moving. So I need to delete the history and then move it. There we go. So it's roughly it's not exactly on that section, but it doesn't matter. It just means that I can pick up that edge there. So I've got one generation curve, two rail curves. I'm not even sure this is going to work, but right. So we got that. That's what I wanted. Don't want that number of CVs, of course. So I'll put explicit control on, and we don't want that number either. So we want to make sure that that's the same. So degree 5 that way, and I'll just make that degree 2. So it's just got sufficient to create that surface there. I can put curvature continuity there. It'll probably fail because it's not enough. It's not high enough degree, but it doesn't really matter because I'll fix that anyway. Let's see if I can do it just in the function. So you have to go quite high to fix it in the function. So I'd rather not do that. I'd rather do it outside in a line. So we've got this surface in here, and that surface there. Let's take the mesh off. I know this is really difficult to see. I'm struggling myself to actually understand what's going on here. So we need to blend from here back into something like this. And it might be that we could just go straight from there up to there, and that will do it. I don't know, but we'll find out. So let me just put in a curve here, from here to here. I know I tend to put in degree 1 a lot and then change the degree. Of course, you don't need to do that. You can put the degree up if you wanted to start with, but just do that. So let's align this. Now, because it's an edge, it doesn't have to be aligned in curvature. It doesn't really mean anything, as long as it's, well, I suppose it could be aligned in curvature, but because it starts off as a hard line. So if I make it degree 3 and then increase the degree up to 3, why is that doing that? Take history off. Not sure why it's done that. Let's change the degree up to 3. I don't know why it modified that one. It's better. So it's a completely made up shape because there's nothing in the data that says it's that particular shape. We just want something that's going to be smooth. And I suppose what we should do is actually have this going smoothly into there. So what we ought to do then is make this degree 5. So we can then align that in G2 at the other end. Like so. So that looks nice. As I say, it's completely invented. It doesn't really, you won't see this in reality because there's nothing actually there. By the time we get back to here, it'll be 0. There'll be nothing. And there's likewise on this edge. Let's bring our mesh in. I'm going to just save this. So, you know, you can see there's definitely a dip there, a dip there, a dip there, and then it sort of doesn't really exist beyond that point much. So let's try putting in a curve here. So we go from here. I'll just go all the way to this edge and something like that. That looks pretty much like it flows into there. So let's make that degree. We'll make that degree 5. Let's try this. So we'll align that way. So that looks, in that view, looks about in the right place. Ideally, from the point of view of alignment, you know, this is coming at an angle, and really it ought to be aligned to an isopalm of that surface there. So we could do that by I'll make a copy of this surface, and then we'll extend that copy. Doesn't matter whether we pick up the copy or the original, and I'll take that back to there, and then we'll go into Object Edit, align this into this edge. Make sure it's on the end. It's not on the end because you can see by the double arrow, so I'll just drag it to the end, and I'll put history on there, and then we can adjust that. So we want to just create that as a nice curve, so I can adjust that and then see how the curve develops. So we just end up with a nice looking curve, and it's just in that view. Now the curve, so we're going to put a surface in here, and it goes across several surfaces here. So we've got these two surfaces, that one and that one. So it's, where it crosses over, we're going to have to detach it. But for the time being, it would be good if we just kept that as one surface in there. Which saves us having to build multiple surfaces. So I'm going to do that. It is interesting to see where how much out that line is there. So if we go into locators and we go curve to surface and just measure that to that fillet, and it says it's 2 mil out, so it's not very far out really, and it's close enough that we can just put surface in there. So if we go into surface, and I use square, and I'm just going to pick these curves here and that edge there. Unfortunately, that all joins up, and then we can put on continuity here, of course. So the first edge that I picked, you got the numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever order I picked them in. So we're putting curvature on that, and you can see the sections appearing, which is great. And I'll put continuity checker on, and then on this end we want also curvature, like so. And the other thing that we want to check in there is if you open up all of these tabs here, you've got boundary 1 and boundary 3 need to be linear, because then we get the best alignment. And you can see that's actually worked quite well. It's slightly high on the data there, but by the time we align this back into the sides, that will change slightly. And who's to say whether the data, you know, is what we should follow exactly in this area. The position on there doesn't really matter because we're not aligning it to anything at the minute. We're just putting something in. Now this, we've got a surface in here, which is that one, and this one will just be position aligned all the way along here. That position alignment that we've got there is just related to the curve, not to the surface. So I should get rid of that. I mean, what I should do is put that curve on that surface. That would be sensible, wouldn't it? But it's very, very difficult to see what the heck's going on here. So this is never going to work at the minute, because we've got conflicting surfaces. We've got this one here, and there's just nothing joins up. So we've somehow got to get all of this to join up, and that's going to be interesting. So we've obviously got a continuity here. Hopefully we've still got that. G2 there, and then this is just been based on the sections that we've got. So it's not going to be exactly what we need.